Picture this. It's Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and every major network has ditched their regular programming. No game shows, no sitcoms. Just one live feed staring down the marble halls of Capitol Hill. What you're about to hear is a story of how one page of paper and 3 seconds of footage brought down the most powerful office in America. Jasmine Crockett didn't shout that night. She didn't point fingers or make wild accusations. She simply read one document, and the room fell dead silent. Minutes later, Barron Trump's meltdown was broadcast to the world, and nothing was ever the same. Let me take you inside that room where it all went down. There sits Representative Jasmine Crockett in her deep navy blazer, flanked by stone-faced committee members. You can tell this isn't just another hearing. Something about her posture, calm but ready, tells you she knows exactly what she's about to unleash. The CNN ticker reads breaking. Crockett versus Trump admin officials, but nobody fully understands what's coming. That morning, Crockett had teased a matter of public interest that can no longer be ignored. She didn't name names, didn't hint at scandal. She simply said, "Watch tonight, no filters." Meanwhile, in a quiet house in Fort Lauderdale, 19-year-old Barron Trump sits alone, arms crossed, watching from a private room. No aides, no family, just him, the TV, and the weight of his father's legacy hanging in the air like smoke. Jasmine takes a breath, adjusts her mic, and leans forward. Her voice is almost too calm for the storm that's coming. "Chairman," she says, "I'd like to enter into the record 3 communications extracted under subpoena last month, each verified and time-stamped, indicating that senior White House officials were aware of an offshore financial transfer protocol tied to the Cayman network." That sentence doesn't just cut the air. It cracks the room wide open. The chairman blinks hard. Aides start whispering frantically off camera. Representative Lanford, a staunch Trump ally, visibly shifts in his seat like he's trying to disappear. But Jasmine's just getting started. She flips open her binder with surgical precision. What you're looking at isn't speculation. It's not gossip. These are internal memos showing unreported transactions through shell corporations in Delaware, Cyprus, and Panama, all linked to the executive office, all dated after January 2023. Can you believe this? The words Cayman Network hadn't been said on national television in over a decade, and now they're being linked directly to the sitting president. The ticker updates. Crockett alleges undeclared offshore transfers. White House silent. Across the country, families stop what they're doing. Group chats explode. This is bold, risky, but calculated. And Jasmine knows the backlash will be immediate. "I didn't come here to make friends," she says, staring down the panel. "I came to ask why no one has explained this to the American people." But wait until you hear what happens next. The committee chair calls for a brief recess, his voice shaky. But Jasmine isn't rattled. She closes her binder slowly and stares straight into the camera lens, speaking directly to every living room in America. "If no one's going to ask the hard questions, then I will. And if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But if I'm not, then we all need to start asking who we've been protecting and why." Now here's where it gets crazy. Someone else had been watching, and his reaction was caught on camera before anyone could cut the feed. When the cameras return from recess, Jasmine has her eyes locked on Conrad Wellner, former National Security Liaison, pinstripe suit, unshakable reputation. This guy has testified dozens of times. He knows the game. But tonight, he doesn't look ready for the one Jasmine's playing. She raises a single page. "Mr. Wellner, you told this committee in May that, to your knowledge, no off-book financial communications were ever initiated through the White House. Is that correct?" Wellner clears his throat. "That's correct, Congresswoman." She nods, then places a document on the screen, an email timestamp from a private server. Subject line, Coordination Presidential Initiative. The name and from field, Wellner's. The silence says everything. "Is this your email?" she asks. After a long hesitation. "Yes, that's my email." "Great. Then perhaps you'd like to explain why you forwarded encrypted routing instructions tied to Clearstream Holdings 48 hours after publicly denying knowledge of these transfers." You can see the sweat roll down Wellner's temple. Jasmine doesn't wait. "Right now, Mr. Wellner." Either you were kept in the dark and lied under oath, or you weren't in the dark and lied under oath. Either way, someone's about to be very unhappy. In Sacramento, college students huddle around a dorm TV. One poli-sci major mutters, "She just caught him live. That's perjury." In Erie, Pennsylvania, a couple who'd supported Trump in both elections stare at their screen without touching their coffee. If even half of this is true, the woman whispers, leaving the sentence hanging. But while Crockett controlled the room, a different camera was rolling across the country, and what it caught would change everything. Little did anyone know, Barron Trump was about to have a complete meltdown on live television. The camera was supposed to show background footage of the White House, while the press room prepared for a statement. But the operator cut too early, catching Barron in the Roosevelt room, pacing with his phone, mouthing words that amateur lip readers across the internet quickly interpreted. She wasn't supposed to have that. Then, in one explosive motion, he hurled his phone across the room. The thud was clearly audible. Within seconds, TikTok clips were being edited, slowed down, captioned. Hashtag Barron Meltdown exploded across social media. This wasn't just a reaction. This was confirmation. That kid had grown up in silence, and tonight, he finally cracked. That was real panic you saw on his face. Back in the hearing room, Jasmine hadn't flinched. A staffer handed her a note about Barron's reaction trending in 42 states. She leaned toward her aide and said quietly, "They're going to try to bury that, which means we're getting close." She looked down at her last sealed folder, the one she hadn't opened yet. This is where it gets absolutely insane. Jasmine opens that final folder and pulls out a handwritten letter. The kind you don't send electronically, the kind you keep locked in a drawer hoping no one ever sees. This letter was written by a former senior economic advisor, addressed to then Chief of Staff Harlan Breeze, dated February of this year. It outlines a planned response strategy should the Cayman transactions ever come to light. The language recommends mobilizing friendly media, launching countersuits against whistleblowers, and framing congressional inquiries as election year stunts. But here's the kicker. In paragraph 3, line 2, we should anticipate resistance from oversight leaders, particularly from the representative out of Texas who's known for her courtroom flair. That's her. They weren't just hiding it. They were planning for it, prepping talking points and legal stall tactics before a single question was ever asked. Then came the line that would be replayed 1,000 times. This isn't politics. This is protection. Social media exploded. Cable news scrambled. People were sharing clips with captions like, "Finally," someone said out loud, and "Crockett is the real deal." But the real bombshell was yet to come. Jasmine introduced a sworn deposition from Dr. Loretta Nenez, the compliance officer whose audit started it all. She read aloud, "I was directed via internal memo to remove specific entries under Project Code 45 Echo." The memo stated the directive came from the top of the executive office and named the president explicitly. The room went cold. You could feel it even through the screen. "So I'll say it again," Jasmine said. "If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But if I'm right, and these memos, emails, letters, and logs all point in one direction, then it's not just the president who needs an answer. It's everyone who helped him do it quietly." By sunrise, the streets were stirring. In cities across America, people gathered before dawn with signs, phones, live streams. The footage of Crockett saying, "This isn't politics, this is protection," had struck a nerve the public wasn't shrugging off. In Tucson, students marched with printouts of the offshore routing logs. In Pittsburgh, union workers wore stickers reading 45 Echo Fraud. A retired Marine in Fresno read Crockett's deposition through a loudspeaker as passers-by stopped to listen. Even people who hadn't trusted Congress in decades suddenly couldn't look away. One customer in a Colorado bakery said, "I don't even like her politics, but she's the only one up there not pretending anymore." That was the tone everywhere. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just trending. She was becoming something bigger. Artists turned her courtroom photo into posters. One image, her lifting that redacted memo in her navy blazer, was downloaded over 2 million times in 12 hours. Meanwhile, Trump's approval rating began sliding fast. Internal Republican polling showed a 19-point drop in suburban voters. The memo wasn't just damaging, it was sticking. But here's what really gets me about this whole story. Throughout it all, Jasmine never raised her voice, never pointed fingers. She just stood there with papers no one could ignore, saying, "I'm not trying to be famous. I just don't think the American people should be the last to know." The ripple effect was incredible. High school teachers showed clips in government classes. Church congregations held community sessions on whistleblower protection laws. Rival city council members co-authored letters urging constituents to read every page of Crockett's evidence before forming opinions. This wasn't just political anymore. It was personal. People weren't just asking, is Trump guilty? They were asking, what else have we been told to ignore? When Crockett returned to Dallas, she found crowds waiting outside her office, not to protest, but to thank her. Students, seniors, activists, lawyers, and strangers who just wanted to shake her hand. She didn't give a speech or hold a press conference. She stood with them quietly, letting the moment breathe. You know what the real lesson is here? Silence only protects the guilty. The longer you stay quiet, the harder it becomes to speak when it really matters. Courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it reads the fine print and refuses to look away. If this story hit you the way it hit me, take a moment to subscribe, share it, and most importantly, talk about it. Because truth only survives when we carry it together. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to read one page and say, "This isn't right."